to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Warbleski, was the meeting properly posted?
It was.
This is a regular meeting of the Board of Education for the School District of Menomonee Falls. This meeting is being held in the Village Hall Boardroom at W156 N8480 Pilgrim Road, Menomonee Falls. This meeting is being broadcast live by Falls Cable Access and can be viewed live on the School District of Menomonee Falls YouTube page. To watch the recorded meeting, please visit our website, www.fallsschools.org/board, and click on Watch School Board Meetings or Committee Meetings live on YouTube. Ms. Warbleski, can you call the roll, please?
Absolutely. Board Member Grant?
Here.
Board Member Langer?
Here.
Board Member Schmaling?
Here.
Board President Kramer?
Here.
Board Member Derline?
Here.
Board Member Kant-Schlimme?
Here.
Board Member Taylor?
Here.
At this time, I'm seeking approval, a motion to approve today's agenda.
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion by Ms. Sterline and a second by Board Member Schmaling. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously. Next, we will move into our Falls Finest, and I will hand it over to Superintendent Munoz.
Thank you. And we do have 3 different presentations, and we're going to start. I'm going to call up the high school principal, Mr. Gebauer, who's just come through another successful weekend, actually, with another great prom weekend. I know everything went great, as good as it has been, but I'll just turn things right over to Mr. Gebauer.
Prom was wonderful. I got my hair cut beforehand, and the person who was cutting my hair is like, "Oh, are you doing this for a special event?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm going to prom tonight." And she kind of looked at me like I was crazy. So I said, "No, I'm just a chaperone for prom." But no, it was a lovely event, as it always is. So, but today I'm here to talk a little bit about Nishant Suthan, who is our National Merit Finalist. So Nishant has what I would say probably the most elite of resumes from a high school student, and really has taken a number of college classes at this time too. But National Merit Finalists, ones who become finalists, about 7,500 in the United States every year. Nishant has a 4.8 GPA. That's not weighted, or it would be weighted with all of the classes that he's taken beyond what a normal high schooler would actually take. Right now, he is taking advantage of our Start College Now program, and he's in linear algebra and differentiated equations. I asked my wife about that class, who was a math major, and she just kind of was like, wow. And he's also in organic chemistry right now too, which, if you know anything about organic chemistry, that is like your gateway to medical school and everything like that. So he's taking that as a high school senior this year. Perfect ACT score and a perfect SAT score is part of his resume also. An accomplished musician. But I think one of the neatest things that came to light about a week or 2 ago is he is going to be an Anson L. Clark Scholar. So this is a program out of Texas Tech. And when you talk about selective, 12 high school graduates in the country actually receive this. So he's going to be at Texas Tech this summer doing research, getting a small stipend for that research and everything too. But again, such a prestigious award. And you know, it's interesting, as I got to know him over the years, the one piece, because people will sometimes say, like, you know, intelligence is something that's a fixed thing, and it's truly not. If you talk to him about his experiences and how much time and effort and extra work he's put into his academic pursuits over time, it's understandable how he's gotten to where he's gotten to. It's really just hard work. So next year, University of Alabama is where he will be heading. So there's going to be great things ahead for him, but I'd like to introduce Nishant, who can talk a little bit about himself and his experiences.
So first and foremost, I'd just like to extend a big thank you to my parents who are sitting here and my brother as well. And then the biggest of thank yous to all the teachers I've had through my time here at the Falls, from elementary school up to high school. Every single one of them has played such a huge part in shaping my education and who I am today. So thank you to everyone.
Over there, so just stand right over here. And right, and Mr. Bauer is going to step up. I know he mentioned his mom and dad, but congratulations, Mom and Dad. Great job. I got to know your son a little bit over the last couple of years. Just a kind, actually, your children as well. Your other son is sitting here, so just wonderful. Great job, Mom and Dad. And our next presentation is for our student board members who are not present, I don't believe, largely because they're too busy doing a lot of things because they're both very busy. So we will jump to the next presentation, and I'll call up the art staff. All of our art teachers are here, and I'd like to make a public apology for having to cancel their award ceremony. But there was a tornado that night, so I don't feel a little justified with that, but I do apologize for that. Why don't you come on up?
Okay. All right, good evening. My name's Corrine Gagne, and I'm one of the art teachers here at the high school. I'm joined tonight by our district's art teachers, which are Quinn Elliott, who's at Ben Franklin in Riverside, Carrie Galaska, who's at the high school in Ben Franklin, Montana Walsh and Kelly Vitek, which are at the middle school, and Field Lehman, which is at Valley View and Shady Lane. We are honored to be here to recognize several outstanding fine arts students whose work was selected during our annual Youth Art Month celebration. Every March, our district partners with the public library to showcase hundreds of pieces of student artwork from across all grade levels. Youth Art Month is an opportunity to celebrate not only the creativity and talent of our students, but also the importance of art education in our schools and community. As part of this celebration, we invite district and community leaders to select a piece of artwork that especially stood out to them. Tonight, we are excited to reveal those selections and recognize the talented students who created them. As we announce each selection, we invite the individual who selected the artwork to maybe briefly share why it stood out to them. At that time, we also ask the student artist to come forward. If they would like, they could briefly share a few words about their artwork, but we also have a certificate and a gift, and if they could remain in the front until we've gone through everybody. As we get started here, thank you to the students, families, teachers, library staff, and administrators who continue to support the arts in our district. All right.
All right, we have Harper Tank from Ben Franklin. And his administrator award from Mr. Goffard.
She's not here.
Okay. And then we have Emery Mamiak from Shady Lane. Come on up, Emery.
Hey, great job, kiddo. Do you want them to stand here? Yeah, why don't they stand up here as a group? They just wait?
I like it.
Okay.
All right, and then we have from Riverside, we have Scarlett Zagorski. That was Mr. Want to talk about it? And Valley View, we have Menomonee Watkins. North Middle School, we have Ella Petrus. Menomonee Falls High School, we have Audrey Schriebnau.
This is not the next one. You want to say something? Go ahead.
Superintendent's Choice Award goes to Riley Bender.
Right.
Announce it for both.
Sure.
Also, Riley, you did get the School Board's Choice Award as well. So Riley got the Superintendent and School Board Choice for the award.
I will just say a quick thing that I chose the shoe because it kind of threw me back to the 80s. So I know it dates me a little bit, but it goes back to the 80s with the old shoe. But great job with that. This is a good picture, but it was really done in a way that very impressive detail work. Loved it. So congratulations.
And we have the best in the show goes to Anna White. And the Purchase Award goes to Alyssa Saunders. And she's not here tonight as well. We do have our awards that we will be giving you a bag. So when we conclude, we will have you guys get a bag as you walk up.
Why don't we do that now, and they can line up over here, since there's so many of them, for a group picture. Why don't we give a round of applause to everybody? Would anybody like to say anything? You don't have to, but you certainly can. About your art or about your art, you don't have to. No pressure. You can? Yeah, go ahead. Riley would like to say a few things.
I would like to say that all the teachers at the high school, the art teachers, just have helped me grow, and I know a lot of my other classmates, and I just want to thank them for all they've done.
Anything else before the picture, art teachers? Okay, why don't we go across the way over here so we have a better picture shot of you? Walk to that far side over there. All the students and teachers with their teachers. And moms and dads, if you want to take a picture, come over here, do what you want to do over here. All right. Up. Wait for moms and dads here for a minute. Yep, scrunch together a little. Yeah, there you go. Look here first. Wait for your parents. Wait for your parents. Moms and dads and principals. Moms and dads and principals. Okay. I think we got him.
All right, I'll give everyone a moment to exit if they so choose. Obviously, everyone is welcome to stay and listen to the rest of the meeting. Do we have all the public comment forms? Were there any public comment forms? Okay. Thank you. All right, why don't we move into our next agenda item being reports, and we will start with Board of Education member reports. Does anyone have any reports that they would like to share?
I do. I just quickly wanted to share that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's a time to recognize the importance of mental health for students, staff, and families across our district. Schools are not just places of academic learning, they are places where young people grow emotionally, socially, and neurologically every day. When students feel safe, supported, and regulated, they are better able to learn, connect, and engage in school. The same is true for staff. Educator well-being directly impacts classroom climate and the student experience. This month is a chance to recognize the work already happening in our schools. Quick shout out to those art awards that we just saw. My elementary school art teacher always said, "Art heals," and I feel like that was really on display tonight. But also, this is a chance to stay focused on how we continue strengthening support for students and staff. That includes creating environments and systems where people feel seen, supported, and able to access support when needed. Mental health is connected to everything we care about in schools: learning, behavior, attendance, and relationships. When we support mental health, we support the whole child and the whole school community. This continues to be an important priority of how I show up to support our schools, and I just wanted to bring forth awareness. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other board reports? Okay, Superintendent Munoz?
Yes, I have a lengthy board report, largely because I just updated it and sent an update to the board. I think it was, I don't know, right around 2:30 today. And the update had to do with a release from the state of Wisconsin that we don't know a ton of information about, but the gist of it is I've been expressing for several meetings now optimism that both sides of the political parties in Madison had some common elements that they were working on, meaning they all had agreed more special education funding, but then it got political from there. It appears that there's a deal that was released today by the governor's office at about late morning, 11 o'clock-ish. So the governor released this press release, and I'm only going to read the yellow portions because it's very long, right? But I will preface this with, this needs to be voted on by both sides, and the governor needs to go through the process. But what it entails is the following, and they're big items, and the details matter. For example, specifically, there's 4 bullet points outlined in yellow. Includes the largest increase to the state special education reimbursement rate in state history to attain 50%, investing over $600 million in K-12 schools, on top of the $1.4 billion provided in the biennial budget. So the $1.4 million was already approved a year ago with the biennial budget, including $300 million in property tax relief through general school aids. That's point 1. Point 2, provides an additional $50 million in property tax relief for Wisconsinites statewide, in addition to the above over $300 million in general school aids. Eliminates income tax on cash tips and overtime income for Wisconsin taxpayers, and returns $850 million of the surplus to Wisconsinites, providing direct support to over 3 million Wisconsinites to respond to rising costs. So that's what is listed from the governor's office, and I've had several press outreaches, including some board members reach out, understandably, and others, about what does this mean for our budget. I've talked to Mrs. Windler about that, and we don't know yet. We want to wait to see it approved, first of all, and we need to see if 50% of special education, I'll just talk about special education specifically, since Mrs. Windler did a wonderful presentation for public finance last year about special education funding. That if 50% special education funding is actually happens, what we're very interested in is what does that actually mean with dollars that are coming in, right? Because it's probably not 50%, it's probably going to be 40-something, but those details matter to us, and that will help determine what the budget effect will be. But what I will say is that This is unprecedented. In my 25 years as a public school administrator in this state, I have never seen the state of Wisconsin, in the middle of a biennium budget, put more money into schools. I have never seen it. I'm not saying it's never happened, because obviously there's history before my 25 years in public education, but this is an unprecedented possibility. We've been reporting about this. I've brought it up multiple times. I'm still optimistic that they're saying in this article that the governor is going to sign it within a week or so. But we'll definitely be reporting on that. This will definitely be a factor, which is why I updated my board report to put the link in there with this article. And for members of the public, this is on the governor's website. So the public website out there, it's being reported broadly. I've looked at several different media outlets. That's what we know at this point. Second thing, let me just organize my papers after that, because that was fresh news that was definitely related to something that we're going to be talking about later in the presentation. So the DPI issued its ruling on both the PI8 complaint and the PI9 complaint. The school districts created a public release, which I've sent to multiple outlets, essentially saying that for the most part, the district satisfied all the laws, and there was one aspect that the DPI made a decision about, which they don't have any authority to make a decision about, but the district is going to comply so that we don't have to spend any more district funds on that issue. New district office update. The last day of the old district office will be May 21st. So there's 2 weeks left of us being in this building as a district office. But we will maintain this space in perpetuity as part of an agreement with the village, meaning the school board meeting locations will stay in this room in perpetuity. We have an agreement with the village on that, that we signed. But our last day in the old district office will be May 21st. All district office employees, including myself, we will have temporary locations, and those have already been publicly listed, and then we'll open the new district office June 8th. So June 8th, the new district office will open. So we have some transitional times. Why? We're going to use a lot of the same materials, so we need to pull them out. Like the main entry secure window, for example, is going to get pulled out. So a lot of those things, we're going to be reusing a lot of what's here that is ours, and then what isn't will go to the police department. So I put a link in there, the roadmap to school concerns, and this is a document that is publicly facing and that's available. And essentially it's, if there's concerns that come up from parents, which do from time to time, there's a simple roadmap that all of our principals have that we follow all the time. The vast majority of items are usually handled below my level, below the superintendent level. I just like to put that in there as a general reminder. I list summer hours at the district office because we are coming into the summer months, but that's pretty standard, same as we've done in previous years. Full house at the GPS breakfast recognition. I had a little write-up. Mr. Gebauer and Mr. Halverson were there along with others, but GPS Ed is an educational partner that we work with where multiple students are involved, and I'm summarizing what's written. Multiple students are involved in off-site work programming where they also get skills with companies in our community, and then also move toward the regular graduation diploma. It's not something that's often talked about because it's not hundreds of kids every year. We are charged for those spots, so it's 7 to 9 kids a year ballpark, but it's a wonderful program, and a lot of that information is listed there. It's a 21-month program, combines on-site, paid work experience, 6 hours with classroom instruction. So I didn't actually attend myself. I had some other things going on, but I know Mr. Gebauer was there with Mr. Halverson as well, celebrating several of our students. Wisconsin Education and News, there's a lot of articles out there, and essentially the gist of all those articles is a lot of information, obviously, but there's a lot of struggles statewide with which is referencing this governor release that you can see from all these articles that I regularly share with the board from the state education news, that the struggles that we're experiencing or looking at from a long-term perspective in a future presentation here in a few minutes are common throughout the state of Wisconsin. That those, there's common problems with the state funding formula. And I'll be very specific about what problems I see, even given this potential very good news, is the state funding formula is still broken. The state funding formula does not work for about 80% of the school districts, including this one, in the state of Wisconsin. The state funding formula is broken. I'm appreciative of whatever this turns out to be from the governor. It seems to be a bipartisan deal to do something more for schools. I'm very positive about that. I'm always an optimistic person. But for certain, the state funding formula is only good for under 20% of school districts in the state of Wisconsin. And we're not one of them. And most districts aren't one of them. And that's a problem. And there's 49 other states out there that fund public education. I recommend those in Madison look at all those other states, and there's other ways to do this. And obviously there's surplus there. Those are my thoughts, those last couple of comments. Couple other things, some information from Mrs. Scopter concerning an email that went to all board members. So it's already public, so her response is listed there, which talks about insurance benefits and things like that. Let's see. The SDMF has been selected as one of a very few districts in the state of Wisconsin to host the behavior threat assessment training during the summer of 2026. It's my understanding that Mr. Halverson has also been selected to be one of the teachers, I think, or something like that.
Not at that one.
Not at that one. It's a different one. A lot of emails floating around from Mr. Halverson's involvement, but I'm sure that'll come up at Student Services tomorrow, which I will be at that committee meeting. We just finished Teacher Appreciation Week. I think you guys also have the gift that was given out to all staff. So yes, it is. It's actually going over very well. I was able to get over to most buildings, and I try to get into as many classrooms as possible. So when I say something like that, I try to get in as many classrooms as possible. When I go building to building, if I see something going on and I can get into a classroom without interrupting what's going on, then I'll go in. But if not, and there's some quiet reading going on, and me being a teacher a few years ago as well, there's certain times where you definitely don't want to enter a classroom. But I did try to get around to most classrooms in the district and talk to a lot of teachers, and that's the message that I sent out. So we're very appreciative of our teaching staff and all of our educators as well. And on a note, I did send a happy Mother's Day to all those that celebrated Mother's Day yesterday. It's always a wonderful day. I did send that to all staff as well. The next point is actually from the high school. So board members, please pay special attention to number 11, which has to do with graduation. All right? I'll summarize. Instead of renting graduation gowns, they bought them. And so you don't need to pick anything up. They're already, I saw them. They're hanging in the high school main office, and you'll be able to get those things there. All right, so they're making sure that the wrinkles are out and they're taking care of all that. So those items are now owned. The difference was like $7 or something like that. When I was, I know, it was minimal. The difference was minimal, so it made sense. Why go back and forth, you lose one, these sorts of things. So I think it was a good decision. So all of those things, please read this. This is for that graduation piece for all the board when we celebrate our graduates in a few weeks. So graduation is coming up. We're excited about that. And just a shout out, I know that Falls Cable Access will be there as well, flying his drone and ready to not only bring us board meetings, but he also does graduation and the fireworks show at the end, weather dependent. Brady signed off on that, but of course that's weather dependent. It's been great for 3 years. I'm sure it'll be great again. So the last thing that's listed in there, then any questions you might have about these things, the Back to School Fair 2026. We've already posted this in several places. It'll become more prominent. We've done this every year now that I've been here, and we've tweaked it and changed it and adjusted it. This year, the adjustment is, it's 2 days, and the times are the same. So we took the feedback from the parents from last year, because we always do feedback loops from the parents, and the parents are like, well, the days being different, the times being different on each day, which they were last year. It's like, well, they didn't remember which one was which, so both the back-to-school fair, pick the day, either the 12th or the 13th, the times are the same, and they cover lunch, and they cover the dinner hour. So they cover both lunch and the dinner hour. So that was feedback that we received from parents. You can see I'm kind of adjusting it for staff work hours as well. But we're looking forward to this. It's August 12th and 13th, 10 to 6. That's start of school for the 26-27 school year. And I know the students listening, of which there aren't too many right now, I'm sure, they're like, wait a minute, we haven't even ended this school year yet, but we're ready to start the next school year in terms of taking pictures in that common place in the grade gym that we've been doing for several years now. Been trying to tweak it, adjust it, make it better each year. Any questions from board members?
I have two. The first one, maybe you know, or someone else might know too, regarding the agreement with Governor Evers. When does that go to the House and the Senate for a vote?
This week.
It goes this week?
It's my understanding from the article, and I, for time's sake, it's 2 pages, but it's a good point. It goes later in the week to the Assembly and the Senate for a vote, is my understanding.
Okay.
And the governor talks in the article about wanting to sign it by next week.
Okay.
I mean, I think he mentions a day in there, maybe next weekend. I'm all for that. 100% supportive of that passing both houses and then the governor passing it, but it's all dependent on line item veto, all the things we know about in Wisconsin, politics at the state level. But I'd like to reiterate that the state funding formula is still broken and that needs to be fixed. That is a mathematical certainty, and I'm certain Caitlin will say that as well as part of the presentation that's coming.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then, just to be clear, the new district office will be open to the public on Monday, June 8th, correct?
Yes. Yes.
It's not just like you guys are in.
No,
it's like
I'm sorry.
you'll be ready to open your doors.
It'll be, yeah.
Oh.
We're ahead of schedule on that because it's a good point. We were scheduled to open July 1st, but we are open to the public on June 8th.
Okay.
There'll be some parts that aren't public-facing. I'll use me as an
The
example.
looks on their faces.
Yeah, I know. I know that there'll be some places that aren't settled yet. For example, my office won't be settled yet by June 8th, but that doesn't matter for the public-facing piece.
Yeah.
So all those things will be ready to go. I'll actually have a piece with John McCure. We're taping, I think, the 27th, 28th, right in there with Falls Cable Access, and John McCure will be doing it right outside to have that video out there. So if you drive by, you'll see a lot going on outside now. Most of the inside is done.
Okay, thank you.
So you're welcome.
Not to be outdone by Hallie, but I also have 2 questions.
Okay.
One, the sensitive documents or the confidential documents that we store here, are those moving to the new district office or are those staying here?
Yeah, some are and some aren't. We also have storage space downstairs, which is part of our agreement as well, to maintain that. Here.
Yeah.
So we have storage space downstairs, as well as the use of this room. That was part of the deal that I signed with the village to shorten our lease. That was along with the $250,000 for shortening the lease. It was the 2 other big items. Well, there was 3 big items in there. It was the $250,000 that they had already paid. It's the basement space with a lot of our confidential items. The use of this space, but also there was an agreement about fiber, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is.
Huge deal.
Yeah, in our not having to move any fiber, which can be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
So, and I do appreciate the village. There was some back and forth, multiple meetings, but we got it all figured out. Very appreciative of Mr. Fitzgerald and his team for being agreeable to, and their lawyers and our lawyers and all the back and forth that goes with that sort of thing. But we have confidential space downstairs, which we'll maintain, so we'll keep badge access. We're still talking internally about what that's going to look like, but we'll have very limited badge access, but we will have it to downstairs, which is substantial in this facility. Downstairs is a massive portion of this facility.
And there is new confidential space at the new DO?
Yep, that's
Okay.
already
I didn't
constructed.
see that in the construction. Maybe I missed
It is,
but- okay.
it's built in, close to Leah's office.
Okay,
But there's also space in the basement as well at Ben Franklin, substantial space.
okay. And then my other question was, you said 80% doesn't, the state funding doesn't work for 80%, but it works for the 20%. Why does it work for 20% and not for the 80%? Can you explain that?
Yeah, it's a lot of different reasons, but districts that are not declining enrollment, like if you're inclining enrollment and you're a district that, you know, is taking from others and you're positive, some of the slides that Caitlin is going to get to and that we'll get to in the presentation that's coming up, that if you're not declining enrollment over the 3-year average, that's generally going to help you, but then there's other things as well. How much money you have in Fund 39, your levy authority, of which we have some left in Fund 39. We don't have any in Fund 38. So it's a lot of factors that determine it, but the vast majority of districts in the state are declining enrollment. That's the major factor, is that the vast majority of districts are not increasing the number of pupils, largely because of birth rate, but there's other issues as well. And some of this we'll hit on in the presentation today.
I look forward to it. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, and then we will move past item C, student board member reports, as they are off doing other things tonight, and we will move into discussion items. So our first discussion item is new committee assignments. So I just wanted to display and go through our committee assignments for the 26-27 school year. Our officers at the top that we voted on last time, the Personnel, Finance, and Auxiliary Committee, again, per policy chaired by our treasurer, Ms. Schlemmy, and then myself and Ms. Grant will continue on that committee for another year. A Curriculum and Learning Committee, we will have Board Member Schmeling, Darlene, and Taylor. The Policy Committee, which I think is only going to have to meet a handful of times now that all the Neola work got done last year, so hopefully some stabilization there, as I will chair that one, joined by Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Glenn Schlemmy. And then Student Services, Mr. Langer will continue as chair there, joined by Ms. Schmeling and Becky Darlene. And then our CISA representative will be Mr. Taylor, and Hallie will be our WASB delegate.
Just one thing about policy, and we're trending to do twice a year, like you mentioned, July and January. But I'm working, I think later in this week, it's on my calendar, right, Peggy? To meet with Neola to kind of firm all that up, and then I'll get that out to the policy committee members. I think that's great. We might have one more in there, depending on special, like law changes.
Sure.
Things that might happen, but we can't really forecast that at this point. I think that's a wonderful change, and it'll allow me personally to be able to get to more committee meetings, like tomorrow night at the Student Services Committee meeting. So, plus others.
Any other discussion on that?
Yep, there won't be any voter action.
Yeah. And then we will move on to our 26-27 board meeting calendar, which was mostly, well, maybe 60% unchanged from what we had.
Yeah, this one we will vote on. So there is action on this in minutes. Those are the two action items today, is to finalize the board calendar for the new year. So we are set, like you can see, in the boardroom, and we look for common times. And we have worked with our directors on this, because there is, for example, one time, March 15th, where it just doesn't work out with scheduling in this room for when we need that meeting, so that's CE and Rec, that's why, for no other reason, that the village has, there's only one room here to use. So, and aside from that, the annual meeting is always held at the high school. We've been legally advised, not this year, but in previous years, that it's always good to hold it there so that we have enough space in case, you know, hundreds and hundreds come. So we'll continue our protocol that we have been using for multiple years with the annual meeting. And just as a reminder to the board that the annual meeting is most of the meetings the board does are meetings that are held in public, but the annual meeting is an actual public meeting, not a meeting held in public, meaning that all members of the community who will verify via ID can vote, right, at the annual meeting. So, but we'll deal with that more in the summer as we build up to the annual meeting. Questions? Like I said, we'll vote on this and then lock it in.
And the other thing I had was just calling out that we do have those, I think, 3 meetings in a row that are every other week, September into October there, but I think that's mostly unavoidable, as we had previously discussed.
Yeah, I think it is unavoidable largely because of the annual meeting. The annual meeting, we have some statutory elements that we need to do. So we have done it in the past, just even in my 3 years here, where we hold an annual meeting and a regular meeting at the same time, but that can be confusing for people.
Sure.
I mean, because it's not, an annual meeting is the public meeting, and our regular board meetings are meetings that are held in public. That's a substantial difference where you have authority to vote with meetings that are held in public, but everybody does in that other sense.
Any other comments on the calendar? All right, we will move forward in the agenda. The next agenda item is the March committee meeting minutes from the Policy and Curriculum Learning and Analytics. So due to committee restructuring, neither the Policy Committee nor the Curriculum and Learning Committee has a quorum of returning members to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Therefore, the matter is being brought before the full board for discussion and action.
Yeah, this is a nuance just of the board election and the board change, and this is the process. So this isn't normal, but this is the way that we can make sure that we get back on track with approval of those minutes. That's why it's happening this way and not in consent.
Yes. Any discussion there? Okay.
So we're going to vote on these minutes, and some of us weren't there.
That is correct.
Yes. Okay.
And I will say for the new members, there's no 100% correct, there's no law that says you must recuse yourself. I think that is probably the norm, but also if you attended or if you've reviewed the meeting online and you feel like you have the complete picture of what happened there, there's nothing that would prevent you from voting for it, but you are also able to abstain if that is the most comfortable choice to you when we get to the action part.
That's 100% accurate. We spent a good deal of time prepping this. Normally, minutes go into consent, but in this particular situation, we wanted to make sure to kind of double do this, discussion and then action as a normal item. So.
But if everybody abstains who wasn't there, then we're not going to approve these minutes.
That is correct.
So I'm just saying,
That is
you kind of all need to participate, otherwise we can all play the game of I wasn't there.
That is accurate.
Yes.
We do need 4 votes.
Yes, we do need 4 votes.
Yes.
All right. Any other discussion on that? Otherwise, we will move on. Okay, and I will hand it over to Mr. Munoz and Mrs. Windler for their presentation on long-term district planning.
Yep, and before Mrs. Windler gets started there, I'm going to jump in at several points during the presentation. At the start right now, I have a few things just to say. And then slide 16, 17, and 30, I'll jump in as well, just kind of prefacing that ahead of time. So first of all, this presentation is strictly informational, and it was created with my approval and oversight to help frame the long-term financial picture for the entire school district of Menomonee Falls. That said, I will go further, saying this presentation, which once again was created with my approval and oversight, because by the 28-29 school year, if all things hold, we will likely be in a very difficult financial situation. All right? So starting off with that, we have new information that just hit us from Madison, right? And we are projecting a balanced budget, which we'll get into, Caitlin's going to get into, for the 26-27. And as we've reported and is publicly available, you know, we have about 30% fund balance, which I'm sure will come up. $2 million in ready reserve cash, another $2.3 million in Fund 73 reserves. We're financially healthy for the short term, which is why this is a long-term financial planning information for all of us. There's no votes associated with this whatsoever. Mrs. Wendler.
Thank you. So as Mr. Munoz just mentioned, we annually look at our 5-year budget forecast. We look to not only look at the coming year, but our long-term forecast as well. So that's what we'll do tonight. And one of the kind of mottos I live by in my own work is that I think that we can make the most informed decisions when we have the most accurate data in front of us. So this presentation tonight is informational. So we'll start with budgetary information and then provide context over time in the state of Wisconsin, and then move into information on referenda across the state of Wisconsin and in our region for context. So I'll begin with the 5-year forecast and what that actually means for us. I'll start by moving into each year and what you're actually seeing on this 5-year plan. So across the top, you'll see the different fiscal years. So the first column being 26-27, and then 4 additional years to the right. As you move down the rows, you'll see the September membership FTE. So that is the value that goes into our revenue limit formula. So that dictates the majority, one of 2 key factors that dictate the majority of our overall revenue within the formula. The per pupil increase is $325. We know that for the next 400 years. That was the line item veto that we continue to hear about. So $325 into perpetuity for the next 400 years is that. So that's what our per pupil amount increases by each year. The per pupil categorical.
Just going to jump in quick, Mrs. Wendler. This document, we've done a similar document like this all of my years here, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. And
before. The per pupil categorical aid at 742 has not changed. That's just another aid bucket that we receive. So that's just a one-time amount, but happens every year. So it's the 742 times our September membership. And then you'll see the TIF out equalized valuation growth. That is the assumption that we used in the forecast model for our total equalized property value growth. That number impacts the mill rate at the bottom. Next, you'll see Fund 10 revenues and Fund 10 expenditures, and then you'll see a number in black or red going forward. So that is the amount by which our expenditures are exceeding our revenues, or a deficit moving into future years. Total school-based tax levy is then calculated, as well as the mill rate. So the levy you'll see in our forecast is increasing, and I will say there are multiple biennial budgets that are represented on this 5-year forecast. There is a lot that changes from one to the next, and as we learned today, 7 hours ago, there was even an update within the biennial budget, which, you know, right now is just a deal proposed, and we hope that continues through the state legislature and onto the governor's desk next week as well, as is in that press release. So that is to say, there is a lot of information. This is the most accurate information we know at this time, and when I say that, I mean Friday, because we didn't know about the state budget information that came out 7 hours ago. We will hopefully have information from the state to present at our next Finance Committee, which is scheduled for May 26th. So anything that is final, we'll have our own calculations for. Again, speaking to the special ed side, what's proposed in the press release is a 50% special education reimbursement rate. What is included in the 5-year budget model is a 38% special ed reimbursement rate. We do know the state historically has said a number, a percentage within the biennial budget, and then what actually happens each year is the number that districts receive as their percent reimbursement is far lower. So in the biennial budget right now is 42% for 25-26, 45% for 26-27. We are using a 38% for both years. And we can run any numbers, but until the state shows us that they've actually put in enough to meet the 50%, I wouldn't recommend using 50% and maintaining a conservative approach like we have. And I hope the state can prove me wrong in that, but right now that's what I would recommend continuing to do. So you'll see again, so going back to the levy over time, you're noticing that that number is increasing each year. And again, that's a result of a biennial budget decision the state has made where that bucket of funding, the state equalization aid bucket, has not increased in the recent biennial budget with a corresponding increase that came, on the, let me say that another way. Historically, the state increases the state special ed, the state equalization aid bucket to the same tune that the per pupil increase as a state has gone up. So essentially that is to say, normally the state funds the per pupil increase. This year when that bucket, the state equalization aid bucket did not increase, that $325 per pupil is essentially going to the taxpayers. So included as an assumption in our forecast is that equalization aid funding bucket not increasing. I hope that doesn't happen. It hasn't happened before, but it did happen in this biennial budget. We are also waiting in the press release, it explained that there's more money going into state aid. Now that could happen in a number of different ways. Historically, it's happened within this equalization aid funding category, but in a recent biennial budget, it happened with these tax levy credit line item on property taxes. So that is to say, there's a lot of information that still has to come, and I'm keeping a close eye on that press release and what happens at the state level.
So we're excited about the possibilities in that press release, but the details truthfully matter a lot with respect to how it's going to affect the taxpayers of the school district of Menomonee Falls.
Yes. So we'll start with just a look at the 26-27. You'll see a number is 0 in terms of revenues match expenditures, a $0 deficit. That number started off as 3.9 million. So it's not like we went from 0 to 4 million. We went from 3.9 to 4.1. And again, there's assumptions built into there along the way as well, which are all detailed out in our last meeting and prior finance committee meetings as well. But we balanced 26-27 by making $2.1 million in budget reductions and then using $1.8 million of one-time funding to create a balanced budget for 26-27. I can go into more specifics in just a second. And then you'll see into the future what that red number looks like. I'll say again, there are multiple biennial budgets represented here, but these numbers aren't getting better. In fact, the last time we looked at this a year ago, when I pulled up my 5-year forecast, our September membership we represented as flat. Now we are seeing this fall, this past fall, our September membership, meaning the students who live here, was decreasing. And this is exactly what Mr. Munoz was referencing with the 82%. The funding formula does not benefit 82% of districts. 82% of districts are in declining enrollment. And once we hit that threshold, the funding formula is broken. So we're among majority of districts that are feeling that. So, and you can see that's that first line, September membership FTE, where we're representing that decrease each year. And it's not even huge, but that's, once you hit that and your 3-year average goes down, that's what really inhibits revenue for school districts. So that's an overview of that, and then just the next slide here just represents gives a little bit more information on these one-time funding sources that we've been referencing. So the first is our health insurance reserve account. So we've talked a lot about this, but just at a super high level, this is the reserve funds that have been made available from 6 good years of health insurance in a row. These are district contributions to the health insurance plan, and when claims came in over the years under what the district had contributed, we built up this reserve that started was about $7 million, and through the 26-27 fiscal year, we anticipate our spendable balance to be about $2 million.
So just to be clear, that $2 million, that's not staff money, that's taxpayer money, correct?
Correct, yes. The balance is approximately $3 million, but $1 million must remain in the reserve fund for incurred but not reported claims. So that is, per our auditors, our spendable balance that leaves then of about $2 million anticipated at the end of 26-27. And we call them health insurance reserve funds because that's where they're originated from, but those dollars are spendable in other categories via an accounting transfer. That is what's normal and consistent in school districts is when they have a Fund 46, those dollars are generally transferred from your health insurance reserves in a year where you have a surplus to Fund 46, which is Long-Term Capital Projects Fund. Our timer still has 2 years left on that, so if we moved our dollars into Fund 46, which we could, we can't touch them for 2 more years. So we instead can use them to transfer them into our regular operating budget and use them within the same year. So it's allowable. It has the reason, I don't want to go into the details of equalization aid and being negatively aided at the tertiary level, but the reason why districts use Fund 46 is for aid implications and allowing to smooth aid over the years.
We make more money by shifting money, is the short of it.
And then the other category is our Fund 73 OPEB trust. Fund 73, or OPEB, is other post-employment benefits, and Fund 73 dollars have to live and stay in Fund 73. So these kind of function differently, where health insurance reserve funds can be transferred out and used in other ways. Fund 73 funds must only be spent on retirement benefits. We have approximately $2.3 million that was previously funded, so these are in the prior to Act 10 days where employees received health insurance benefits for retirement rather than just retirement pay, TSA or 403B payout. So at that time, with actuarial studies and everything, funds were transferred from Fund 10, from general operating, to Fund 73, and now live in that fund. They have not been touched for multiple years since that retirement benefit ran its course. So nobody is left where district dollars are going to fund retirement health insurance benefits. So what that means is we have $2.3 million sitting in Fund 73 that we can use for existing retirement benefits that we currently pay out of Fund 10. If we use them from Fund 73, that frees up those dollars in Fund 10.
So you're not talking about pension payments, this is separate, right?
Correct, separate district.
And these benefits, at the time, people vested into them, they were paid out what was owed. Everybody got everything they were owed, and based on actuarial projections, some actuary said, you need to put $4 million into this account, again, based on interest rates and ages of people and all that stuff. And then in the end, when everything was settled out, there was still money left there.
Yes.
And so that's why it's here. It's not, nobody got shorted any money, nobody, and again, these were funds taken from, through property taxes that were put into this. Again, they were required to be put in there by actuaries based on rules and regulations, and they ended up, in the end, being overfunded.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So moving into the next,
Can I ask one quick?
Go for it.
Yeah, the health insurance reserves. I know you said we had 6 good years since we have extra funding. Do we anticipate any future years?
No.
I know it's very unusual to have 6 years in a row.
And so that happened when we switched from being fully insured to a self-funded plan. So generally districts end up in a good situation at that time. We meet with our health insurance partners regularly with USI, and they have told us, do not count on that going forward. That is not happening anymore in our current health insurance market. Thank you.
Matter of fact, it's the other way, right?
Yes.
We're projecting
10% increases. That's like market. That's if our plan goes according to plan, we could expect a 10% increase in health insurance each year. So moving into the next slide here with the pie graph, we broke out, it's just, this slide is in an effort to present more information, right? What makes up our budget? The majority of school district budgeting is made up of salaries and benefits. So our graph looks very similar to majority of other districts across the state of Wisconsin. Over 70% of our annual district expenses go towards salary and benefits. You'll see those are in the like 3 darker colors, the blue, the teal, and the green. The green you'll see has the word transfers. That is our transfer from Fund 10, general operating budget, regular ed classrooms, all of our roofs and maintenance and everything, our transfer to special ed, the special ed fund, Fund 27. So the majority of that funding goes to salaries and benefits. It's accurate to say our whole transfer covers salaries and benefits within Fund 27. To tie this back to the press release we just talked about, if the state increases the special ed reimbursement rate, that transfer, that slice of the pie gets smaller because we have less funding that has to go from our general operating budget to Fund 27 for special ed. So an increase in the special ed reimbursement rate benefits all students. And this is how, in this graph.
Yeah, that's a very important point. And that's one of the reasons why Mrs. Wendler did her presentation last year to joint finance on this point alone, special education. An increase in special education dollars helps the entire district, all students.
So to clarify too, the dark blue and light blue for salaries and benefits is all staff, correct?
All staff, yes.
Like you.
Yep, yes, all staff.
And teachers and custodial.
All
and
employee
EA.
groups, yes. So this pie chart represents all of Fund 10, so that's not just teachers. At the top, we have, broken out teacher salaries and teacher benefits, and in order to give some, some context of like what does that mean, teacher salaries are, wait, let me find my notes, because I did look this up before this meeting. Teacher salaries of 22.5 represent about 2/3 of all salaries within Fund 10. All salaries, I should say Fund 10 and 27, are about 33.6 million, so 22 compared to 33. So the majority of salaries are for our teacher employee group. 2/3 of those salaries, 2/3 of that blue are salaries for teachers. Now we have other employee groups, obviously. We have our custodians, we have our health insurance, our educational assistants, we have our professional technical folks. We also have, this isn't just salaries, this is all wages. So we have our coaches, like our athletic coaches, we have our curriculum chairs, we have our summer pay. So all wages are represented in that blue. So that's why there's such a difference between the 2/3 of teacher and then the 1/3 of all other wages. Now the teal, the benefits piece, the total benefits for teachers up here are 12.4 million, and the total benefits across all employee groups are 13 million. So 96% of that benefits pie slice is made up of teacher benefits. So if you think about all the other wages I just listed, there's a lot more wages that don't come along with the benefit. So that's why the teacher piece of the benefits are such a larger chunk of the total benefits. Does that make sense? And then you'll see district retirement benefits. So that corresponds to the little chart on the right where we have our retirement benefit. This is a district offering. This is not a state pension. This is not the Wisconsin Retirement System pension. This is a Menomonee Falls thing that we enacted a number of years ago. A prior board enacted this benefit. And when employees meet certain criteria, age and years of service criteria, which does vary by employee group, there is a benefit paid, and again, the benefit also varies by employee group. We projected out if everybody stays and meets their years of service and their age criteria, what does that look like in terms of district cost over the next few years? And I should say the benefit is not all paid out in 1 year. So some employee groups it's paid out over 5 years. So we charted that all out and then totaled it to see what is essentially the max amount of a benefit that the district would pay if everybody stays and meets their criteria over the next however many years. And so that is what you're seeing on the right. Those are the benefits that the district, is the total cost of the retirement benefits. We have always funded this, I should say always, since this has existed, within Fund 10, our general operating budget. This corresponds to that other slide the last slide that we just talked about with the Fund 73 OPEB Trust, where we have about 2.3 million available to fund this retirement benefit.
Now flip back. So this is an important point here, that the 2.3 million will be exhausted in a few years, just based on this chart alone. And that's an important financial fact, that this board or the previous boards that I have ever worked with, this occurred long before that, this benefit. So we're not making any value judgments on the benefit. We're just presenting the facts and the numbers.
So within our 26-27 budget, we have a line item to use $400,000 to fund this 1.07 million. So 400,000 of the 2.3 bucket available to fund this piece, because we have to spend our Fund 73 dollars only on this category of expenses. That's why. So that, everything we just talked about is operational, and then there's a capital component of our business as well. So we have our capital improvement project is on our website. There's the most recent study was done in 2014, which extensively went through all aspects of our buildings, from the roofs to the floors, essentially, and the parking lots and everything in between. We have over $30 million of needs on our CIP plan that goes through 2033. Annually, our district funds $675,000 to our capital improvement projects, and as possible, when possible, more than that. So last summer, we had over $1 million in roofs, and I will say that was because we had a rebate from our North Middle School chiller the prior year. We got a rebate for being energy efficient in over $400,000. So that in turn went right back into capital needs and funded roofs. In 26-27, again, one of our line items to balance the budget is pausing our CIP work, except for, you know, we always say needs over wants. The need right now is the Valley View elevator. It stopped working on Grandparents' Day. Like, that thing has got to be working. We need when we have students who need it, we need to fix the Valley View elevator. However, going forward, costs, this type of cost, capital improvement needs, are one of those pieces that are have been hit so hard by inflation. And our facilities team has talked about this over and over, how they're like, man, we used to go, 675 used to go so much farther. We could do, you know, felt like most of a school. And I'm like, can you quantify that for me? Because you keep saying it. So we actually pulled invoices from years ago, and we found a roofing project from 2017 at Valley View. And quite literally, roofs on a square footage basis are 3 to 4 times more now than they were just in 2017, so less than a decade ago. We also have from prior projects, so in prior referendums, we had 94, 99, 06, and 16. And what happens when you have that is oftentimes a lot of stuff comes due at the same time, because it's funded in one big wave, and it, you know, comes due. So we have a lot of roofing projects, a lot of infrastructure needs, plumbing, that kind of thing, that are coming due. So that's part of the why, that's why those dates are listed there. And all this information is on our website, available for anybody.
And just for clarity, I think there's the 30 million through 2023, or I think there's about 20 million deferred. That is not anywhere, that's not reflected in the current projections.
Correct. Okay, good question. So the 5-year model that we looked at initially with all those numbers only represents $675,000 of CIP.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Say that one more time. How much money?
675. So 675,000, our annual allotment.
Back in after this.
Yes.
Next year's pause.
Yes.
And I know this is it says it right up there, but all of this is public facing. So we've had our CIP out there. It's a couple links away, you know, and I encourage not just the board, I know the board has looked at it, but those listening online or those in the audience, feel free to go out and look at our capital improvement projects. It's close to 30 million of different things over the years, and it's scaffolded by years, and that's something that we actively look at on a regular basis and reprioritize based on, oh, a roof starts to leak, and we're good right now. We're in a good spot. We have put a lot of work in, but those things cannot wait forever.
So outside, I know we're in the CIP is the drive up at Riverside and Valley View. All other things are maintenance. They're not new things, just maintenance on existing buildings, correct?
A lot of roofs, a lot of roof work, You know, pools, anytime we get into both of our pools, there's a substantial cost to maintaining 2 pools, which we're committed to doing. But yes, the drive-ups at Riverside and Valley View, we've put some effort into getting some numbers on that, just based on wanting to separate, if possible, buses and parent traffic for safety reasons.
Thank you.
So I'm going to keep moving unless there's anything else on that front. So into the why we're here. So years of inadequate funding at the state level has done a number on school districts. The legislature has gone more than 17 consecutive years without increasing school district revenue enough to keep pace with inflation. And I'll speak more to that in the next 2 slides. Declining enrollment, this is 82%. As a result of the state's revenue limit formula, this results in reduced revenue at a rapid pace. So again, when I've been looking at my 5-year this year compared to my 5-year last year, and I'm like, man, these numbers have gotten bigger. And we've talked about the number of challenges we've had with personal property aid going away and special ed, et cetera. And I'm looking at the differences, and I realize that that declining enrollment, it's like, here it is, loud and clear. This is really impacting the school district of Menomonee Falls. So we are, in this boat with 82% of other school districts. And then that special ed revenue that we keep talking about, that I hope one day we can update this bullet point to not be, in the same scenario, but the state budget includes 42% this year. And it was around Thanksgiving, which just blows my mind because we are already almost halfway through our fiscal year. DPI came out and said, we're probably going to be at about 35%, well, not probably, we're going to be at 35% reimbursement because of inadequate funding at the state level. So again, I hope the state can fund that 50%, and I hope they're adequately, making that funding high enough to be 50 and not 42, but any increase is helpful.
That slide is critical. So I'm extremely encouraged by the 50% number and everything that hit in the press release earlier today. But that third part right there, that the state already promised 42%, but we're actually at 35. So if they promised 50 and we're still at 35, we didn't do anything. So that's what we want to know. But I think every district in the state wants to know that.
I have a question about the second point. Declining enrollment. I'm looking at the 5-year budget forecast, and I see numbers declining from 3702 to 3693 and so forth. And it looks like, on average, they're dropping by about 10 per year. I'm wondering why such a tiny decrease like that, like 0.3%. Why is that such a big deal?
Okay, great segue. It's as if we did this on purpose. So the next slide is the funding formula, the revenue limit formula, and this is why that's so impactful. The revenue limit formula is how districts receive the majority of their revenue. So for us, this formula dictates 90% of our revenue. There are 2 values that essentially calculate your entire amount of revenue limit authority. The first is resident membership FTE. So the whole formula is built on the number of resident members you have, or this value is a little different than enrollment. So resident membership is truly like the real definition, the number of resident students who live here, resident members who live here, but that is a 3-year average. So the 3-year average, that being in the formula rather than just the straight up September count, is an effort to help smooth fluctuations in your revenue or declining enrollment, declining resident membership. So we are now, when you look at our September counts, we've kind of been bouncing around, decreasing in the last few years, and now our 3-year resident membership average, so the value that's in our formula dictating our overall revenue, is decreasing. And so once that triggers, you are getting less revenue at a rapid pace.
Maybe if you, I know we always talk about the per pupil increase, which is what, is it 350?
325.
325, that goes on for 400 years or whatever. That's the one that's saying that everybody, but what
was their number?
What is the per pupil dollar amount? Because I think that is probably the key. Like per student, it is.
The per student for 26-27 is $12,736. So every year we just take the number that we are and increase it by $325. So the combination of the 2 main values that drive all of our revenue, not working in our favor, meaning resident membership FTE, the 3-year average has been decreasing, and at the same time, the per pupil increase not being aligned to inflation, that impacts our overall revenue limit authority. So those two things, when they're both negative, is not great. And that's why we're seeing our 5-year forecast as it looks right now.
And every district has a different per pupil dollar amount. So Menomonee Falls is $12,736. And not to put someone on the spot.
Oh gosh.
And that being you, but also being the district in Door County that gets, what do they get per pupil?
Over 26,000.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So the per pupil amount, okay, I could talk about this forever, so stop me whenever. In 1993, revenue limits were enacted. And at that time, the state took wherever school districts were spending and froze them and said, we're going to increase your per pupil amount. So here's what we just calculated your per pupil is right now. And we're going to increase it by the rate of inflation each year. So districts are all over the board, right? Like this was before revenue limits. So you funded your programming as you needed to.
Because the number was set in 1993.
The number was frozen in 1993, yes. Meaning like solidified, and then the formula used to be, so can we go to the next slide, Peggy, please? The next slide is the increase in that per pupil dollar amount. So for us again, $12,700 is our 26-27 number. That's $325 more than the prior year, which is what we're going to just keep seeing. That increase, the 325, used to be for the first 16 years of the revenue limit formula tied to inflation. So quite literally, it wasn't even a dollar amount. It was just a percentage that increased whatever inflation was. That's what your per pupil amount increased by.
This is why this is one of the driving factors of why the revenue limit, or the formula is broken. You know, part of it not being tied to inflation is part of that as well.
So in the 09, the 08, 09, 20, 09-10 time frame is when those two became decoupled, meaning the increase in the per pupil was no longer tied to inflation and rather was just a dollar amount within the biennial budget. Over the years, that has built up to be more and more challenging for districts. And on top of that, again, 82% of districts are in declining enrollment. So these combination of factors is why the second half of the PowerPoint exists, because we are not alone in this scenario. So what this graph means right now is that today, we would have $3,500 more per pupil if we had been tied to inflation all of this time. What that means for the school district of Menomonee Falls is over $13.5 million more dollars we would have annually, not just one time, annually, if revenue was still tied, revenue increases were still tied to inflation. And I just wanted, like, $13.5 million is, like, if you think about our 5-year forecast we just looked at, even if it was half, even if it was a quarter of that, that would be impactful dollars for our school district.
Very.
So a drop of like 10 would, at that 12,000 some dollars per student, means like 120 some thousand dollars less state support for us each year?
If the 3-year average is decreasing by 10? Mm-hmm. I want to say yes, but the formula is a whole giant spreadsheet that I would have to calculate it to see if that's the exact scenario. I simplify it in a nice little formula like that because it's easier to digest, but in reality, the revenue limit formula is a whole spreadsheet. It's a whole budget model.
Yeah, there's other factors. There's a primary, secondary, and tertiary level to the actual formula as well. And for us to get into where each district falls off, some districts don't get all 3 levels of state funding. That's part of it as well, but extremely complex.
Yes, there's whole courses on that.
So Caitlin, when you said earlier that the $325 is essentially going to the taxpayer, did I hear you right?
Oh, sure, okay.
How's that?
Okay, so what normally happens, and when I say normally, what's historically happened is the state has taken that dollar amount of increase, right, because the last 17 years has been a dollar amount, not a percentage increase of the per pupil. So the state has calculated what is the total amount of increase for all districts? What is this 325 times however many pupils are across the state? And historically, the state has increased the equalization aid category of funding by that number. So they correspondingly increase the aid associated with this increase, meaning the state is funding that increase. That increase is not because once you have your levy, or once you have your revenue limit authority calculated, you take your minus your aid, and that equals your tax levy. So because the aid bucket hadn't increased to this year with the biennial budget, that amount is going to property taxpayers across the state.
That's an important point. That has not happened.
Since the revenue limit formula existed.
In my 25 years in public education, that was one thing that usually we call it in public school financing, money on both sides of the formula, or on both sides of the, this is the first time ever that I'm aware of in my 25 years in public education, or in public school administration, that is, where they didn't backfill it on the other side of the formula, which means the money really didn't come to us. The money really didn't come to us. The 325 didn't come to us. It went to property tax relief, which is probably why, I'm guessing, why for the first time ever, we have new money coming in the middle of a biennial budget. It appears that that's.
Yeah, so we'll find out, again, what amount is going to the aid at the state level funding the line item. So the next piece here is just a history, which we've talked mainly, over the last 30 minutes about, so I'm not going to go into detail. But again, the main pieces here are in the 90s was revenue limits began. And then in 08, 09 was when that revenue limit inflation adjustment was removed. Obviously, we had Act 10 the next decade, which came with cuts on both the revenue side and the expense side. And a result of everything we've just talked about is why referenda are often a financial necessity for most, either capital or operational or a combination of the two.
It's an interesting slide, though, because if staff or if community members come to me and they're like, well, back when I was in school, or back in the 90s or the early 2000s, I think of this. Like, well, yeah, I'm all for not having to have a presentation like this, but they decoupled the formula in terms of CPI for districts. So this is an important slide, but things are different now. The funding formula is just totally different now for public education.
So the next four are review reductions over the years, and this list is not all-encompassing, but these are the items that we've talked about annually with our balancing the budget conversations, and what are the reductions that we'll make to essentially, true up our expenses to our revenues to have a balanced budget for our board. And we've gone through these extensively each year. The last one of these four here is other significant long-term cost control strategies that don't have a dollar amount but are impactful in our efficiency each year. So partner schools was the last a big one that we enacted years ago, almost a decade now, that allowed us to have a very efficient model to have class sizes in line with our board-approved ranges. Obviously, as we talked about, salaries and benefits make up the majority of our budget, so that was very impactful moving forward into creating cost control strategies. And then another one that I'll point out on here is reducing and eliminating over the time our need to cash flow borrow. So school districts receive the majority of their revenue after we are 6 months of the way through our fiscal year, so we have our annual ongoing expenses, we pay our payroll, and we pay our bills, essentially, and we don't get our first big property tax payment until January 15th. So we're literally going through half of our fiscal year, which is why it's important to maintain a level of fund balance. Fund balance is not all cash, but it's made up of some cash. So a high enough fund balance allows us to avoid short-term borrowing for cash flow purposes. It is a very normal thing in the state, but if we can avoid it, that's great, because when you borrow funds, it comes with additional interest payments.
And one thing that isn't up here, but we've talked about quite a bit, I mean, it's up here, but it's in a lot of different slides, that over the last 3 years, we've pushed back to taxpayers over $5 million in interest savings alone from actually the project at the community center. That was we actually paid for that cash and saved the taxpayers $3.3 million over 10 years, moving the district office because we don't have paying rent anymore, and T1 lines is saving the community $2 million over 10 years, approximately. So just to put that out there as well.
So you can move on, Peggy. Thank you.
Slide 16, this is, I'll take 16, 17, and of course 30 I'll end out. These are just levers that we have. These aren't recommendations at all. None of these are recommendations, but we have pulled the retiree attrition savings lever, meaning that that is built into our budget at this point, but we can't do that forever because eventually it's just not possible. It's not financially tenable to do that anymore. Additional open enrollment seats, I give the board credit for going there with open enrollment because that is a direct effect on the dollars to the district. So we have 21 open enrollment seats at this point, and I saw a report today that since that's already been approved, I think we have over close to a dozen already confirmed, and we're working forward, and we'll have a full report once we get there. But having that approved earlier in January has got us pushing on that now to actually realize the full 21. And we may have recommendations for higher numbers after this year, because that is a lever that certain districts, not just ours, but many others utilize in this area. More resident students living in our community. There's not much we can do with that other than trying to get them not to leave. We did surveys about that, and we believe that, and I'll get to the next slide is on strategic plan, but before I get to that, we'll talk about the feedback from our parents a little bit, just in brief. Staff cuts, we have cut staff in my 3 years here, we just haven't cut teaching staff. So we've cut over $400,000 in administrative positions, multiple EAs, and we have been doing that already. School closures, thankfully, we haven't had to do any of that. There was already a school realignment before my time, I think due to a failed referendum back in the 2017, thank you. And then referendum. We haven't had one since 2016. 2017, sorry. So that whole piece, those are the levers that we have available to utilize. We believe that, we know that in the last 3 years and the previous 3 slides before this or 4 slides before this, there's some detailed information about all of the work that we have put in, the whole staff, the admin team, about making sure that we are being fiscally responsible, which we have been, pulling the levers that we have been able to pull. Next slide is the...
One quick question, David.
Yes.
Is there a point in declining enrollment where a school closure would make sense? Are we anywhere near that point?
No, and unfortunately with declining enrollment, what generally happens is you see it over the grades. It's not confined to one grade, one school, one class. Okay. So again, this is another reason why declining enrollment results in revenue reduce at a faster rate than you can actually reduce a teacher. Because if you could have 25 less kids, but if they're across 12 grades, you actually can't reduce a whole course or class yet.
And I'll answer it this way. I think that was a great answer, but I'll even take it further. The 21 open enrollment seats that the board approved were approved at the high school because we determined that we were able to add 21 open enrollment seats without increasing staff but still absorbing that in their space available at the high school. So there was a couple different factors there. And I know we've discussed this as a board, obviously new board members, but in this district, and we have worked on this, that our class sizes, we've worked on balancing this, are actually larger in the elementary than they are in the high school. So there's an imbalance there that we've been slowly working on through time. And I do appreciate Mr. Gebauer and his staff for being conscious of that, and we're trying to rebalance that. That is not usually how you want it. But we are working on that.
I've had a couple community members ask about like the vacant land that we have.
Yes.
Could you speak to like the recent valuations? Obviously that selling it would be a one-time thing, but it is an asset that we have in the district.
Yeah, we made that public through the Finance Committee, and I think we brought it to the full board, but it was definitely in Finance Committee, where we did get valuations on all that property, and we were underwhelmed with the valuations at all 3 properties, and meaning TJ's, Hiawatha, and then out on Menomonee Avenue, which is the largest piece that we have close to the edge of the school district. So all 3 properties, it was about $500,000
Each, yeah.
roughly. And the largest piece.
Well, when I say that, I mean, TJ and Hiawatha I'm grouping together, so it's
Yeah.
$500,000 at one, $500,000 at the 40 acres.
Right, and that's really dependent on what would go up in terms of single-family homes or what have you. But like you said, one-time money. So those are levers we could pull in terms of selling those things. We do have the largest piece out on Menomonee Avenue, and we're pretty certain that the dollar amount for that would increase if it was improved. You know, the TJ's in Hiawatha is closer to Village Center, and they've already got sewer and water and all those sorts of things as part of that system. So we were generally underwhelmed with the dollar amounts, but of course, if that's the board's direction, if we're to sell property, we could certainly do that. But we did approach that this last year as per our strategic plan. We did get valuations, and we're prepared to go in whatever direction the board chooses to go with that, including if you have a big buyer that wants to overpay.
I don't have one, I'm sorry. I would send them your way if I did.
Yeah, thank you.
One quick question, I know we're not at an enrollment place where closing a school seems to make sense, but if we were to close a school, what would be like the cost avoidance or budget impact if we did so?
Yeah, so that is a whole study we would have to, undergo. And so the number of cost, the easy, most quantifiable one is if you look at the capital improvement plan, and you choose the building, which items on there are for said building that we wouldn't have to fund, right? Like the roofs and the parking lots and the electrical and the plumbing in one of the buildings. So that is the easiest quantifiable number that we wouldn't have to do. So one less building to fund capital improvement projects for. You end up with probably one less principal. You probably end up with a less custodian, probably front office staff. So there's efficiencies created there.
And part of that study would be, because when I was an administrator in Wausau years ago now, over a decade ago, they did this kind of study, and you might even see this in some of the Wisconsin State Education News, that they looked at where students, the actual students attending schools, lived physically. There, it's on the east or the west side. I happened to work for Wausau West at the time, years ago, and the vast majority of students in that community, even to this day, live on the west side, not the east side, which happened to be a brand new high school on the east side. So that sort of thing in this district, we have similar situations as well. We know that 68-ish percent, 67 to 68% of our students live on the Riverside, Ben Franklin side of the district. I'm pretty close on that with numbers. So, but we haven't looked into that and done any detailed dive on, any of this other than the first part about attrition savings. We have pulled those levers. We started to, in a targeted way, pull that lever for this school year, so in last year's budget for this year, and we're doing it again successfully going forward. Thankful to the principals for that, for their help with hiring teams, that we are successfully pulling that lever. The additional open enrollment seats, thankful to the board with that. That is a lever that we're pulling. More students.
Can I speak just quickly on the open enrollment side? So talking about, numbers are helpful. So the open enrollment amount per student is about $11,000. So
yeah.
if we had 10 additional seats, that's $100,000. If we had 50 additional seats, that's $500,000. So you can do the math, and obviously our board has worked to be very strategic and efficient, and not just opening the doors, but making sure that we're, not adding staff. Like, that defeats the purpose if all of a sudden you're above your class sizes.
And for the first time in a decade, we're negative open enrollment? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So usually that has been a positive number in our budget, and we flipped to negative, meaning we have more leaving than coming in by a slight bit. We are working on that. Okay, slide 17. I wanted to briefly go with the strategic plan. And I will say that we have received feedback from our parents this year in the parent caregiver survey. We're excited about the feedback because of the 15 questions asked, 11 of the 15 questions were between 81 and 91% agree or strongly agree in terms of the questions that were posed in a blind survey conducted with Studer. So we're excited about that, and the other areas weren't that far off, and we're working on it with our teams. So looking at our strategic plan with parents and families and that sort of engagement, we know that generally speaking at a relatively high level, and I know we presented this to the board already, that our parents are seeing great things, and we have great teachers and we have great staff, and I just wanted to bring this back to 30,000 feet, that we are successfully, working through the strategic plan from the curriculum team and the teachers with reading and math and all of these sorts of things. But I wanted to focus on our employees and our finances and facilities. When we did the strategic plan and we did surveys and we had Studer and we had groups and focus groups and all of that, we did talk about recruiting, retaining, and engaging effective employees in all roles. That was something that was built into our goals. We believe we've been successful at that in the short term, but we of course want that to be forever, right? We are 95% for 2 consecutive years, but that has to do with a lot of different factors. Our finances and facilities, you can see right at the top of the strategic plan, is the 10-year capital improvement plan that was talked about actively during the strategic plan when we were building this, and aligning our resources to that 10-year capital improvement plan. We've taken a little bit of step back this year in order to balance our budget, but we're in a good spot because we have done a lot of spending in the last few years with that 10-year capital project.
Okay, so our second piece of this presentation is, again, I'm going to reference what I said at the beginning, is that I feel that we can make the most informed decisions when we have all the accurate and up-to-date information at our fingertips. So this is just to build context about what's happening across the state and our region. You can go ahead. Again, building context, and I will say that one piece that, Mr. Munoz and I have talked about extensively is that we would always recommend a data-driven approach to gathering and responding to community feedback. So to us, that's a critical component of this whole next section. This is just a data presentation. So there are 2 types of referenda, operational and capital. Operational has non-recurring and recurring. Non-recurring is a temporary increase in the revenue limit, and recurring is an ongoing or permanent increase in the revenue limit. That's operational. On the capital side of things, capital referendum allows a school district to issue debt to finance a capital project. So examples of typical projects: construction of a school building, additions to a school building, renovations and improvements. And with a capital referendum, a school district has authority to proceed with debt issuance process for up to 20 years from the date of debt issuance. So typically what happens is a school district would take out debt for 20 years, finance that debt over 20 years.
One note about the difference between operational and capital referendums is an operational referendum, there is no debt. There is no debt with an operational referendum, but there is with a capital referendum.
So this is just a visual of the 2 different types of an operational. We talked about an operational being a temporary increase in the overall revenue limit authority, and that is represented here by the dark blue. So non-recurring, you can see the light blue shows our base revenue, or a district's base revenue. The dark blue represents the additional amount that an operational would provide a school district for the number of years that would be part of a referendum question. The next piece that shows a recurring shows how that base revenue started in year 0 and is increased in year 1 and maintains as part of that overall revenue limit authority moving forward.
And I'm going to say this, and if you could go back one slide, and it's not a recommendation by any means, I'm just acknowledging what has happened in part of our community. When Hamilton passed their previous referendum, it was a recurring operational referendum and a capital referendum. So that's what they recently passed, was a recurring operational and a smaller capital.
So we'll do this with both operational and capital, just show what's happening across the state. So the graphs you see here are from our Baird School Analytics tool. The light blue represents referenda that have passed, and the purple represents failed referenda. And you'll see in the chart, I know it's hard to read, but it goes back to 2011 all the way through the spring election. And essentially what I see is that this number has increased over the years, over the last 15 years. So again, this graph is the state operational referendum history. And moving into this, a visual of Wisconsin, this is a visual of districts who have passed an operational question since 1992.
I mean, like I was gonna say, like, we've had 4 in that period of time that have passed.
Operational.
So I'm assuming that, yes, some of these folks, it's not just that they've gone to referendum once since 1992.
If it's blue, that they've passed one, but it's an operation, not capital. This graph is just operational. And then moving into county stats. So we always talk, in our comps with both academics and financials, et cetera, we're often referring to Waukesha County. So this is a visual of Waukesha County in terms of operational referenda history over the last 15 years. The line, the blue line that's dashed, represents the amount of referenda that have been sought for operational purposes in Waukesha County. And then you'll see 2 different colors. So the blue, again, blue is passed, the light blue is referenda that have passed, and the orange is failed. So you can see visually how many referenda have been sought operational across the Waukesha County, and then also the amount that has been sought across Waukesha County. And to summarize the most recent election, there were 75 referenda on Wisconsin ballots this spring, with 84% of them being operational. So that's the highest percentage on record of operational referenda as part of an election. And 87% of districts have pursued an operational since '93. Okay, so that's operational. We're moving into background information on capital. So again, state stats, starting with the state, and then we'll go to county. This represents the number of capital referenda over the last 15 years across the state. Again, light blue is passed, purple has failed, and you'll see the different elections over the years. And then the next slide we'll see is Waukesha County. So capital, again, sticking with capital and into Waukesha County over the last 15 years. The blue dashed line, once again, is the amount that was sought. The orange is failed, the light blue is passed. And then specifically, School District of Menomonee Falls, the colors stay true. So the light blue is passed, the purple is failed. So you can see our referenda history dating back to '94. The pie graph represents the percent that have passed and failed in our entire history. Again, this starts in '94 because revenue limits started in 1993. The numbers, the value, the dollar amounts are listed there. And then this presentation is available on our website on board docs. That's SDMF referenda descriptions is a link, if anybody's interested, to the actual DPI language and additional information on our history.
And the last couple slides, just an overall, we've already hit on all these points, that there's some brand new information today that's fresh off the presses that I think is worth reiterating. We're very interested to see what that does for our short-term picture, but also our long-term picture. So, there's no recommendation at all for a referendum at this point, but it's a lever that's available, not a recommendation. Are there cuts that we've made? Yes, multiple cuts. You can see that all in here. You can see multiple years. Just in my 3 years here, we've been cutting every year. We have not cut programs, athletics, teachers, or staff at all. We've actually increased teachers in my 3 years here by a couple. That's an ebb and flow every year. And I think there's already been some good discussion about some questions about school closure. I mean, we're not there yet. But obviously you can just look in the news and there's school closures in Waukesha at the biggest district in the county. So the last part, long-term facility planning per our strategic plan, that while we have a 10-year capital improvement plan that's public-facing, and I recommend, I know the board members have looked at that already, but I'll just say it again for the community members. It's always good to go out there and look. It's a couple clicks away. Caitlin and her team have done a great job of making sure that that's out there for everybody to see. A lot of links, a lot of clicks. But we don't have a current long-term facility plan in place. We have one that's dated, but that's an important piece that will be coming up in the next probably Finance Committee meeting or sometime in the near future. And then the last part is feedback on timeline for finalizing negotiations, which I think we are tomorrow. We're set for tomorrow with that. But if there's any other discussion or questions?
Yeah, I had a couple questions, and thanks for the very detailed presentation.
Look at it. Sorry, that was so long.
One thing I've learned from the Finance Committee is that when in doubt, in Ms. Findler we trust. So, but no, I think that was really great, and the information on levers that we have to pull. I certainly don't want or desire to go to a referendum. I'm sure no one does. But I think, like you said, I think, the previous boards under Ms. Christensen and Ms. Grand have made decisions that have gotten us this far. So can you, the 26-27 budget that we balanced the Finance Committee last year, which, just to reiterate, or I guess not reiterate, but I guess check, there's been no changes in the last month to the 26-27 budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that's coming for action next month?
Yes, so June will bring the 26-27, budget for discussion and action.
Perfect.
And we had discussion at our last meeting, so kind of, my goal was to kind of separate 26-27 and 5-year budget forecast, because I anticipated this was going to be a long conversation. So we did 26-27 budget at the last board meeting, I believe. Maybe it was the last regular board meeting. We did it recently. And then
in March, yeah.
This meeting is our, long-range planning, long-range financial planning to look at our 5-year forecast. And then June will be going back to just 26-27, approving, just having the budget packet that we always present, and then board approval for 26-27.
And then that leads to the annual meeting. So that decision by the board in June will lead to the annual meeting, which leads to the October final approval.
Yes.
Of the 26-27 budget.
Perfect. And then just to reiterate what you mentioned earlier on, I know you said this comes every year for, you do this 5-year plan every year in front of the board. But I think the second part about, referendums and levers is maybe not historically been brought forward. So just wanted to say I don't think anyone else on the board necessarily requested that, correct? It was, so you kind of, you're at your direction, David, that it was, you wanted to put this together.
Yeah, I approve the presentation.
Okay. So I guess then my question is kind of what in the financial picture, I guess, triggered you guys to put the, kind of the second
I'll say a
half
$4 million number.
The $4 million, yes. Okay. That's fair. I just wanted to say it out loud that, right, it's.
And I'll reiterate and answer your question even further. that we're projecting balance for the 26-27. We have $2 million in ready reserve, $2.3 million in 73. So effectively, the 27-28 is looking okay too. It's really the 28-29, which I started the presentation with. And that's, you know, and those are decisions for the board to make. I'm not suggesting whatever you choose to do with 2 million or whatever you choose to do with 2.3 million. But we have 30% fund balance and board policy on 25% as a minimum, which you can go down to or even go below if you choose to. So we do have substantial reserves, so we're in a good spot financially for the short term. This was a long-term view of things.
Is my, and I understand what happened at the state today might change this discussion, but is my understanding of basically, to your point, the fund balance and the healthcare reserves, retirement reserves, we can basically, I hate saying not specific terms or around Ms. Windler, but we can probably get that 27, 28 number close to zero if we were to essentially empty our piggy bank and maybe put some money on the credit card.
Yes.
And then we are truly and utterly out of levers in going into 28, 29.
If nothing changes, and again, there's big news at the state level today. So we will see how that plays out and how much money in fact went into the special ed reimbursement bucket at the state level. But yes.
One thing we have talked about, a lever that's not mentioned here, because it is a debt lever, is Fund 38. We paid off Fund 38 a few years ago, my first year, but every school district in the state can borrow up to $1 million if they choose to without a referendum. That's
$1 million.
$1 million. That's Fund 38 debt, but I'm not recommending that. I'm saying that wasn't part of this presentation, but it's something the board president and I have discussed, I believe, once.
That's kind of what I was alluding to with the empty the piggy bank and put the money on the credit card.
Yep.
That fund.
Fund 38.
So I guess just looking forward is the point of this agenda item. So looking at that 28, 29, when we really are we're out of one-time money then, again, assuming, depending on what exactly transpires at the state and what we do with the $4 million deficit for 27, 28. So we're sitting here 25-ish months away from needing that budget to be approved for that 28, 29 when we have no piggy bank left. I know you have the next steps up right here, but I guess are there more, how do we move forward so that we don't act too early, but we also don't, I don't want to like, right, we 26, 27 is balanced, 27, 28 can probably get to balanced, but at the same time, like we can't bury our head in the sand and then wake up 23 months from now and be like, wow, I need $5.4 million. So what's that right time, or, especially in light of today, like what is that right timing of, hey, we really need to look into closing a school or, raising funds or whatever it may be? Like how do you balance that 2 years of balanced budgets and then that cliff with action and investigation?
So I would say we're in finance committee talking about what strategies are we going to study. We need direction on, we talked about our levers, and none are great, right? Like this position is not ideal, and we're not alone in this conversation. So specifically, I'm looking forward to like what am I studying? I can do any math.
Sure.
What are the opportunities that our board is interested in pursuing, and maybe it's pursuing more information on, and then we pick the best option for our school district at that time.
Yeah, we're looking for feedback from the board as to which levers or which direction you would like for us to go. Okay. So this is informational, was always meant as informational with no necessary vote at all on this.
Right.
But what we're looking for, doesn't have to be today, of course, but in future meetings, finance committee meeting at the end of the month, or meetings when we approve the budget or preliminary budget in June, is feedback about where the board would like us to go with all of this.
I'm sure others have questions. I'll just leave with, like I said, I appreciate both of you putting all this together, getting us out ahead of, the big scary red numbers in your box, and then just, an appeal just to the community that we have a thoughtful discussion around this. I know any talk of money and taxes and school closures brings out a lot of emotions, so just, want to say that we, as a community, should talk through this. I don't think it's anyone's intent or desire to go to referendum, but also we have, I think, a duty here to give, those incoming kindergartners the same resources and support that outgoing seniors have enjoyed. So just a plug for discussing this as rational adults.
Thank you.
One last question I had was regarding this 25% figure. I believe reserves should be 25% of budget, and that is a matter of policy. Is that right?
It is, yes.
Okay. And is that a guideline? I mean, what happens if we go below 25% to, say, shield the taxpayers?
The board,
Change the policy.
yeah, yes.
You can be the one to say, let's go under 25%. You can suggest.
So we literally, can't go below 25%.
You can change the policy.
Currently, but you can say, I would like to amend this policy to be, you can't go below 15%.
Okay.
There are districts that have a lower number than 25%. So I wasn't suggesting, I didn't mean to suggest that 25% was in any way a legal number. 25% is the number in our policy. There's no law that said that that's the low number. That said, fund balance, generally speaking, and Caitlin can speak to this, you keep a fund balance so that you don't short-term borrow. And largely, we don't receive big buckets of money, all the money from the state of Wisconsin, all the millions that we're talking about, we don't receive it all on July 1. It actually doesn't work that way. You actually get most of it much later, so you don't have to, but by having a substantial fund balance, we're able to make payroll without short-term borrowing.
Okay.
So the board can make a decision, like Board Member Grant just mentioned, that you can lower that number, and other districts do have a lower number.
I'd say many probably do. Like, again,
Yes.
we're in a very, very good situation, and here we are talking about this. We've got other districts that are in a worse financial situation and maybe have talked about this multiple times, or maybe haven't talked about it at all yet either. So, I've seen multiple, but I've been here for 5 years. I can't speak definitively. I haven't looked back at my first year or my second year, but I'll tell you that every 5-year projection that I've been involved in, besides balancing the current year, the next 4 years out had a negative number. So again, this is not necessarily unusual, and that doesn't mean that these things by next year won't have changed. So again, I think everybody, wants to do what's prudent and fiscally responsible, but just because you're seeing a negative number 1 year out, I've seen a negative number 1 year out for multiple years, and every year it's been balanced.
And if the board chooses to address that particular policy, we could certainly do that in July, right away, in our Neola book. Certainly, we could look at that policy and reduce that number. If you choose, as the board, if that's the decision.
And then you don't do things to exacerbate your negative number and make it worse. You try to make it better.
This would probably be a future question, but related to this right now, I would be curious, what would like an actuary or an auditor recommend that percentage be?
Caitlin?
The reason why the 25% is our percentage is because The generally accepted best practice is that we have enough, whatever percentage we are, that allows us to avoid short-term borrowing for cash flow purposes. So if we looked at a pie graph of our revenue sources, 1/3 is from state aid and 2/3 are from property taxes. We get property taxes on January 15th. Those who are aided more heavily, like if we were shifted and we were more heavily aided than property tax funded, we would get our money earlier in the year. So those districts can have a lower fund balance percentage and still avoid short-term borrowing for cash flow purposes.
That's a really good point.
It's legal to borrow for cash flow purposes. Many districts do it, but again, when you borrow money, you have to pay an interest amount back. So we have now if we did that, a new line item in our budget that's interest payments of X dollar, you name the dollar. So best practice is whatever your district's percentage is that allows you to avoid short-term borrowing for cash flow.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I just also wanted to say that I think, since I started my adult life in education, it has been school funding is a problem, right? It's been the career of it. And I have been picking up things along the way to understand what's going on and everything. And Caitlin, I really appreciate all you put into these slides and explaining what this is all about. You really helped me over the year understanding this. And I understand that, community members can pick and choose when they listen, what they listen to, if they have the bandwidth for an hour to listen to these presentations. And so I will just continue to say that I really do want to get into more ways above what we're already doing, so I'm not discrediting what we are already doing, of ways to really communicate what's going on with school funding. And there's a variety of ways to do that. I envision listening sessions would be great, or quick social media campaigns to educate people. I want this combination, though, of educating people about what's going on, but also hearing from community and other stakeholders about what should we do here? I do hear that if we hit a cliff in 28, 29, we're in crisis mode. And right now, maybe we have a little bit of time, and hopefully, knock on wood, with the stuff that just came out today, we'll be able to sleep a little easier, or you will. I'm this is not a Menomonee Falls issue, it's a statewide issue, and I get that there's news and other places, and, I also respect and understand that people have jobs and lives and families, and they're not necessarily just paying attention to this, but I'd like to find more ways to hear from people and to educate people about what we're in. And so I'm just offering out there, and I'm open to whatever the board thinks too, I'd love to sit down with communications director, finance team, whatever, to be how can we continue this conversation to really help educate and listen to people about really what's going on, because I understand the 7 of us have ultimate votes, but I can't make informed decisions unless I hear from more stakeholders. And I need to hear from stakeholders when they understand more of what's going on. So I wanted to put that out there as well, that I'm going to keep talking about that because I am really invested in that education piece.
Thank you. All right, with that, we will move on in our agenda. There were no public comment forms submitted, so we will move into action items. So the first action item is the board meeting calendar. So I am seeking a motion to approve the 2026-2027 regular board meeting calendar as presented.
I'll make the motion.
I have an update on this, by the way.
I have a motion from Mr. Langer.
I'll second.
A second from Ms. Clint Chimney. I will someday say your last name correctly.
I was going to say.
We have an update on this.
The October date needs to be moved to the later October, 2 weeks later, for budget approval purposes.
Oh,
So we already have a shift.
okay. So
Yes.
would you like us to take a new motion and as amended?
So
But the reason that it got moved is because of the election, and told us we could not use the boardroom. So unless we move it outside, that was the reason that the date happened.
So we need, can you pull up the, sorry, I should have come up when we were having discussion about this.
So I need to rescind my motion?
You have a lot of late-breaking news for us.
I know. I keep up today.
It's gonna be like, Governor Evers, no.
I wish. No, October, I gotta pull up a calendar. Whatever the 2 weeks later from that date is,
26.
that's when our meeting needs to be for budget approval purposes. We learn all of our state budget factors on October 15th, so we need that end of October meeting to approve our budget. So we can't be in this room.
Correct.
We need to be.
It got moved earlier in the month from the last version.
Okay, so we need to change from October 12th to shift it to October 26th and find a new location.
Should be able to
So-
use C and rec somewhere.
Yes. Well, if we amend the motion,
Are you listening?
if,
Oh, see, you're right here.
if we amend the motion to changing the date, as Caitlin mentioned, with the location to be determined?
Okay. I'd like to amend my motion to change the date, as Caitlin had mentioned, because of budgetary purposes, to October 26th at a site to be determined.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yes.
Maybe?
And I'll amend my second to all the things Travis just said.
Perfect. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that passes unanimously.
Okay, thanks.
The next action item is the March committee minutes from the Policy and Curriculum Learning and Analytics Committee meeting. So I am seeking a motion to approve the Policy Committee meeting minutes from the March 26, 2026, and the Curriculum Learning and Analytics Committee meeting minutes from March 25th, 2026, as presented.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Perfect. Any discussion on those minutes? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that passes. Next, we'll move on to vouchers payable.
I would like to make a motion to approve vouchers payable through May 7th, 2026, in the amount of $1,656,554.19.
I'll second that. Any discussion on the vouchers? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that passes. Next, we will move into the consent agenda. The consent agenda this month contains board meeting minutes from the April 13th and April 27th meeting as presented. So I'm seeking a motion for the approval of those minutes.
Make the motion.
A motion from Mr. Langer. Second from Mr. Taylor. Any discussion on the consent agenda? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? And that passes. Next, we will discuss any possible future agenda items.
Just want to bring up at this point, we have committee meetings scheduled for the month. Tomorrow is student services. I know curriculum is toward the end of the month. And we also, personnel and finance and auxiliary is toward the end of the month. Aside from that, I do want to mention for the board and for the community that committee meetings will still happen at Village Hall in the district office transition. They will still happen here until mid-June. So we have that committee room through, like, I believe it's the 19th of June. So our new committee room will be ready by, I believe it's the 20th of June.
And that new committee space will be in the new district office.
Yes, it's the current professional development space. It's already there. It's nothing, there's no building that needs to get done. There's just some paint, some electronics, some things. We're putting all of the effort into opening by June 8th, but it'll be ready by that June 20th timeline for the new committee room. They have to create a new entry, and we have to wait until students and staff are done before they create the entry on that alternate side. So there's 2 back entries to Ben Franklin. One is already being reconstructed, but the one on the food service side or the playground side of Ben Franklin on the back end, we have to wait until they're fully out of the building before we recreate that entrance. That's what we're waiting for.
Thank you for waiting.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Student Services Committee meeting tomorrow at 5:30? 5:30. We're going to hear what Mr. Halverson's been up to for the last year, so that should be interesting.
Real
And
short.
we have a,
No, just kidding.
ouch. And we have a special guest, Mr. Munoz, coming, so that'll be interesting.
Good way to spend your Tuesday.
Just kidding, Mr. Halverson. And then I'll also say the curriculum committee meeting is Wednesday, May 27th at 6 p.m.
I'll add on to that, that the Personnel, Finance, and Auxiliary one is at, is on May 26th at 5:30.
Anything else? Otherwise, I am seeking a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned.